PK, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much. It's nice seeing you after such a long break.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's part of my healing process. Yeah. So it's good to see you. How have you been?
I've been good.
Good.
Very good.
Good.
I think I've been blessed big time. I'm in great health and very few worries.
You know what's fascinating about you? And a lot of Ghanaians, when the kind of thing that happened to your company, if it happens to them, they hide. Ghanaians, they will travel abroad, they will keep quiet, they will go and farm. You are like, hell no. I'm going to be in the public face. I saw your events. I was emceeing programs. I saw you there cracking jokes. And then
probably dancing.
Yes! And then I was like, hey, this guy. Then you wrote your first book and you wrote another one. Yeah. That's a very different spirit.
Yeah.
Why? What's going on here?
I think when people taste a bit of success, it gets into their head and their egos sort of go way up, and they are not humble, and therefore when things should go down, then they can't face the people. I think for me, the two things that has made me who I am and responded the way I am is because I have great faith in my maker. That everything is in control. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I try to be humble all the time. So when I was Moses Perez CEO and now, there's no change in Kofi Amoabeng.
Wow. Yeah. So it's not as if you've deteriorated. So the public view of you and all those things, you haven't changed. You are the same person.
No.
You're the same guy.
For the public, you can't control whatever they want to say or what they expect. Sometimes it can be very negative, sometimes it's good, but it doesn't touch me. I mean, I am who I am and I know who I am, and therefore perceptions and reports about me don't really touch me.
The other point is how this did not break you, because there are people whose philosophies about Ghana is that if you're trying to do something good, people try and bring you down. And it's easy to see how that happens in many cases. And it's possible that some of what happened to you could be that. And you would have been right to remain silent. You would have been right to say, I don't want to give my family or any other people who are associated with this any more stress. So let's just go quietly. But you've said, no, I will tell the story my own way. Not only will I do that through interviews, I'll actually write a book. So I'm going to write that so that in 100 years, this will still be there. In 1,000 years, so you're not going to do a minute interview and disappear. What kind of thinking led you to that decision?
Well, I think we are in this world to impact on the world, on people, and part of it is through what you do. As in maybe forming a company or working for a company or whatever. But I think the more deep one, or what stays long after, is what you give to the society. And I don't think anything can beat what we're trying to do. Writing the books, the volume 1, volume 2, they're going to be a volume 3, which will actually be on the bank and so on and so forth. And we're also giving by way of setting up PK Amoabeng Leadership Foundation. So actually, on my birthday, there are two things that are going to happen. The launch of volume 2 of the UT story, and also the official launch of the PK Amoabeng Leadership Foundation.
Wow.
And it's all about trying to leave something for the youth, for the upcoming, for those who care to read and listen, and leave a right legacy and footprints. Because in your final years, it's all about giving. And therefore, I think we have to give as much as we can. I mean, at almost 71, I should be sleeping by now. But I said, no, let me get up. Let me go and see Ben, and let's put the issue out there and educate people. And let's avail what we're giving to the people.
What feedback did you get for the first one?
It was fantastic. George, you want to come in on that?
Yeah, George, because this was a year and a half ago.
Yeah, November 2021.
Yeah,
November 4th was when we launched the first one. It was amazing. People received it well. They particularly liked the approach. You know, when you are writing for someone, you have to look at the person's character and what he stands for and all that. So there was a lot of humor in the book. I remember you said, you just said some few minutes ago that you couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
We had lots of that. People couldn't put it down. They read it like a novel. And it wasn't just that, you know, The first one talks about when he goes into the army. This is an undisciplined man, decides to get some discipline and said the best place is the army. He goes into the army and learns some timeless values, which helps him, builds him up. He comes out after 8 months, he's a different person. And then he decides to form a company and uses those timeless values he learned at the military academy and in the military to run the business.
You know, one of the things that impressed me about the book was, because I've interviewed him so many times, I wanted the book to be him. Do you understand? Because there are books you read and you don't feel the author because somebody wrote it for him. But when I was reading the book, I felt like he was the one talking to me because of even the stories he chose to use. The way he described some of his experience. Like, for example, he said, Charlie, I was such a disaster that I realized that if I hadn't gone, if I didn't do something drastic to save my life, I would destroy myself. This is the kind of, he's like very upfront. You know, he doesn't hide things. Like the toilet in the first shop in Kantamanto, he added it. You know, that type of thing. Well, how are you able to capture that essence? It's not very easy to capture that in a book.
Okay, so I spent a lot of time with him. People are seeing the fruits now, but we spent like 3 years together. I mean, doing this, I was studying about his mannerisms, the way he talks and everything. And the thing about him too is...
I'm here.
Yeah. We are radio pass. So the thing about him is he says everything as it is.
Yeah.
So he gives you, how do you say, too much filler. So the problem is, how do you decide which ones to keep and which ones?
So he doesn't hide.
Nothing.
Amazing. Let's come back to PK. So the first one was about you, but this one is about the company. Am I right?
Yeah. The second one is really about, it's more about teaching people how to build a great company.
How you did it.
Yeah. So while the first one was about struggling as a startup and all that, and without much of structures and systems and policies and things like that. The second one is when we actually put real structures in place and adhere to whatever the policies were, and also fine-tune our values with strategy sessions, and we had key people coming to the company to actually grow the company from the unique trust financial services to UT financial services, and also the expansion that we undertook up to the branches and the other subsidiaries like UT Properties, UT Logistics, UT Private Securities, UT Life, and also outside Ghana as in UT Hamburg, UT Nigeria, UT South Africa. And I think this is something that we should actually capture and leave for posterity. So for people who are going to run their business and want to expand and grow it to a super brand, it's a book they must read.
How did you remember the reasoning behind your decisions? Because one of the things that impresses me is, for example, in choosing your board, you sort of walked us through why you wanted this guy, why you wanted that guy. And, you know, we go to business school to learn things, but the little I know about running business with Samensis is a lot of things you do it iteratively. So you don't go to a book to tell you what you should do. You basically do it because you know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But you were still able to remember why Martin, why not Wagus Baminka Premo, just why all those tiny things. You were able to give us reasons. Is it that when you were doing it, you were writing it whilst you were doing it like, here we are, no. How are you able to?
I think George always mentioned the fact that he's surprised about how my memory, I can keep all those things in mind. But these are things that happened to me and real life, and I know how I went to bed and how I decided on them, and they stayed with me. So I haven't lost it. Even though I'm getting advanced in age, I haven't lost the memory.
But Bernard, I understand your surprise, and it's part of their training, their socialization. You know, you and I are generation computer, but the things they remember, especially those of their. But when you read the first book, the introduction, we talked about his memory. At 71, he will be 71 on Wednesday. The things he can remember, the details, the places, the people, how their faces were and all that. That's one thing that makes this book unique.
So it's in a sense, the fact that I didn't have such computers and all the things to, because for me a lot of things I journal now, I write on things. I'm not saying it means I don't remember, but the memory is very impressive. The other thing I wanted to say was, again, a lot of the books we used in business school were not Ghanaian books. So Good to Great, Built to Last, and things like this. Two things. Those books only talk about, a lot of them focus on success. And I'm happy you've spoken about a company that was highly successful. And even though it didn't really end up the way we expected it, you still feel confident enough to write about it. That's one. Number two, it's an authentically Ghanaian business. Because basically we started at Kantamanto somewhere, with some office here, we move here, we hustle here. It's not like we sat down with some nice white people with some board. It's like, Charlie, with the hustle for money, I need, a very Ghanaian story.
Yeah.
It's
And that is why I think Professor Bauli of
Justice.
Yeah.
Eugene,
he said the same thing.
Yeah.
That, this is the kind of stories that
Yeah.
we should encourage people
Yeah.
to put down, because it's more of business.
We can relate.
Exactly.
I can relate to
Yeah.
it.
Not businesses which were started in Seattle somewhere and all those things.
Yeah.
You can't relate to it.
Because the philosophy of your business, how you started, trying different things, looking for money.
Basically, yeah.
People say don't give you, Charlie, and you got the first deal. Then went to lend, and then it's. But having said all of this, okay, what are your thoughts? And again, the book has many parts. Talk about the growth from UT to Unique Trust to UT,
Exactly.
and then to the group. I noticed some very organic growth of the company.
Yeah.
So you start with the financial services.
Yeah.
You stabilize that, and then you move into things related. So collections,
Absolutely.
properties, logistics. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? What are your thoughts about how you grew that thing? Because my views on the financial sector in Ghana, again, I may be wrong. I feel the sector is over financialized. We have too much money chasing too little productivity, or we have too much money business which is not supporting real things. But you did real estate as well. You did, so you were adding value, not just in terms of interest rates money. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, you see, that is a very good question. You see, a lot of business people that that are growing up now, they go into, let's say, financial services, then they go into gold mining, then they go into real estate, and it's quite haphazard. It just happens. In our situation, we did things, as you said, that came organically. UT Private Securities, for example, is because we wanted to give service to our clients who were coming to the banking halls or the for financial services. And the same for UT Properties, because we needed properties people within the group to be able to deliver loans in 48 hours. And before, by default, we realized that we had a valuation officer, we had a maintenance officer, and so on and so forth. So these people then said we could do more than just serving the financial services. And therefore, we looked at it and said, yeah, why not? You can still be on your own and also do financial services, serve financial services. So the emphasis all the time was growing financial services. And the other companies were spin-offs. Unlike people who just say, oh, there's money in this, they jump into it, they take money from the financial service and then put it in some other thing. No. When we spin them off, they were supposed to be completely independent. Maybe we help them with the initial capital, but then they're completely independent.
In retrospect, I'm sure that is useful, because had all your eggs been in one proverbial basket, when things went south, everything would have gone south.
But I see exactly what to the point.
Yeah, George.
But the interesting thing about the what he just described, the organic subsidiaries and how they came about was UT, Mr. Amoabeng and his people and his team, they didn't have any blueprint to follow. So they had to do it all by themselves, make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and correct and go on. So that brings the reason for doing these books into sharp focus. It makes it very important that he's now laying it all out there. Because, later on people followed his blueprint. Well, they blazed all the trails, and then people, now all of a sudden, we have all kinds of savings and loans companies and all. Now this is it, where he's laying everything out there so people can take it and read and know the thing.
But when you think about how Ghana's economy was when you started and where we are now, and what you try to do, What are your reflections on the financial sector? Do you? Okay, again, I'll share my assumption, and you can. I feel like we have not learned our lessons. It's because we've had so much history that we should have learned from. I mean, cooperative bank of housing and construction collapse. It's almost like we go through cycles, and even I'm not that old. I get frustrated that we don't learn. I don't know whether that's the same thing you get.
Yeah, and that leads me to why I'm setting up the PK Amoabeng Leadership Foundation. And the basis of it is that basically, I always say that when people say Ghana or Africa, we have so much and we're not developing, they are not looking at the flip side of it. We are not developing because we have always lived in abundance. So the problem is not why we are not using the abundance around us to develop, but that the abundance has actually shaped us, and we have different cultures, and our genes and DNA, after living in abundance for hundreds of thousands of years, we are bad people. We are lazy, we don't keep time, we have cultures that are negative, and so on and so forth. It's another complete issue. But really, Africans generally are not good in so many things because of the abundance in which we found ourselves and stayed in it for so long. So to answer your question, we are not learning and going on because innately we are wrong people. We like pull him down. We have jealousies. We have enviness. We are greedy and all kinds of things, all coming from the environment in which we found ourselves, because the environment shapes everything and every living thing adapts to the environment.
But some will say every country has people who think wrong, but it's more like
ours is plenty.
The people who think wrong are number those who think right.
Here, the emphasis to generalize, we are just the wrong people. That's why we.
No, but there's a view that maybe it's a lack of leadership. Some people feel like, so for example, I'll give an example. When you started your company, yes, the generality of Ghanaians have a certain mindset, but you were able to select a group of Ghanaians who, for a period of time, were world beaters. So, in spite of the prevailing mindset issues, with the right leadership, you can still do a lot.
I agree with you. With the right leadership, you can still do a lot. That is why the Leadership Foundation, because we want leadership with a revolutionized mindset, mindset different from the typical African mindset. A leader, for example, must have to be humble, respect all the people. And the only way to respect all people is to put systems, processes, institutions in place. And you, the leader, must actually subject yourself to it and insist, be brutally disciplined about it, that everyone keeps to the systems and processes. But this is anti-Ghanaian or anti-African. Because somebody can this from the chief, this one the pastor, this one from the minister, and they break the system. And with that kind of approach, we'll never get on. But if you have a leader, as you pointed, who is disciplined to a fault and put systems in place, I mean, like in Ghana, we have too many laws, but they are not working. Because the head of state is above it, his relatives are above it, the chiefs are above it, the pastors are above it, so then the systems won't work. But even though it looks hopeless, one thing is that when Africans go into the Western world where systems work, they actually flourish and they even do better than some of the.
How long do you think it will take us as a society to get to where we all know we want to get? Because again, individually, we do very well. We have sparks of brilliance here and there, companies that rise from the ashes and do great work. But collectively, globally, Africa is still at the bottom. So what is it? Will it happen in your lifetime?
No. It will never happen. Maybe it will happen in your lifetime.
Maybe 41.
But the issue is, it all starts with leadership. And when I say leadership, I mean the man at the very top. I mean, the only reason why UT were able to do the things that we did was that when it comes to meetings, for example, you come and find me there on time.
All the time.
All the time. So every meeting at UT had to start on time. I would not do a whole lot of things, and therefore no staff could do it. But where you have a system where the leader is different, He does whatever he likes, and he's trying to tell you guys not to do this. The leader must set the tone and actually create the right culture in the society or in the institution in which he finds himself. You should lead and create the right culture. It's the culture that we have to change, but it has to come from the leadership.
Let's talk about the foundation and your leadership philosophy. Again, I'll state my assumption and you correct me. A couple of things rise to me when I study your books and you. I sense you lead from the front.
Yep.
Because from everything you've done, to the extent I even explain marketing strategy, you even talk about the smiling monkey. So like the details of marketing campaigns are not lost on you, even though the company was big. So you lead from the front. But you also trust people. There's a lot of people you work with.
Yeah.
You were name dropping Charlie, Philip Ayensu, George Quay, all the guys in the multiple concepts team. Sam Menz, Bernard, everybody's name is in the book. Again, so even though you lead from the front, you sort of you get people to do things. Are you ever talking about Pearl? Not Pearl. Even Pearl, and then this other lady, Sophia.
Yeah.
You know, people we used to interact at our level, and you were talking about what they were doing and how they were good. I wonder how you're able to, from where you sat, know all that. Because what I know is that when you are in the front, you see before everybody sees. You see the big picture. But it's very difficult to know what's happening at the grassroots. Yet you sort of know all of that whilst you are still leading from the front. How are you able to do that?
Yeah, the thing is, you actually delegate authority to them, but you also let them know that you really care for them and what they do and their success. So they will actually also be transparent about it. They will tell you, hey, Chief, this is what I've seen, this is what I think we should do. And then you also bring your suggestion. They may be the experts in the field, but you have your own instincts. I remember talking about the monkey. I mean, some of them said, no, this one already, our name is not nice, and then you go and put monkey. I said,
Smiling
listen,
monkey.
when you put a beautiful girl on the billboard, it's all over the place. Nobody's going to look at it. But when you put something really bad, then they will look at it and remember. And the monkey was a winner. And the people
I think
said,
one advert of the year.
people said I was the monkey, which was okay if we're getting people coming to UT and I'm a monkey. That's fine, you know. So the way to do it is to trust your people, delegate to them, but don't lose sight of it. In fact, when we went to the bank, I think I lost that touch a bit, where people came in, they felt they were bankers, and therefore they even knew better than me and knew better than everybody else because they had come as head of bank, and then we were supposed to run with it, but run in the wrong direction. You know, so when we were smaller, my impact could be felt everywhere, and I was genuinely interested and loved my staff, and I trusted them to give them the authority, but they will come back and give me the right reports, and together we made a decision.
Have you, so when this foundation you're launching,
Yep.
who are you targeting with it? What level of person will be the beneficiary of the P.K. Amoabeng Leadership Foundation?
Yeah, thank you very much. As I said, as for you are not going to see a change. So we're going down to the tertiary institutions, probably even go lower. And we started by going to some campuses and giving lectures and interviews. And that is, we do this in association with established foundations who are doing it. And then we are also forming the P.K. Amoabeng Scholars.
Okay.
In this case, we choose some promising young people, not necessarily with degree or anything, but who are hungry and they have the traits that we want, and we'll choose them and intentionally mentor them, intentional mentorship, and then we'll also provide them with some kind of courses, and then we put them with some of these board members to guide them and so on and so forth. And tailor, follow them to the point where we know that they are successful. So it's going to take maybe 4 or 5 years. Other things that we'll do is to actually go to corporates and talk to them about the kind of leadership and the atmosphere they have to have the company. Because you see, not only are we targeted entrepreneurs and so on and so forth, we're also targeting those who are already in existence. And they have to have the right culture. For example, I say something like, your first family is actually the company in which you work. And people don't understand because we always talk about nucleus family. But if that first family is not there, that nucleus family will suffer. And you spend the best part of your life at work.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
From morning to night, Monday to Friday, your life is gone. So you must create the atmosphere where there's love, there's caring, and respect for everybody in the workplace. And if you do that, then the work will actually...
Okay. So this Wednesday, which is your 71st,
Yeah.
Wednesday is 22nd.
Second.
You're launching the Beauty Story
foundation.
Volume 2 and then the foundation,
And then the foundation.
at the same event.
Yeah.
And this is targeted at university below and also promising. So you want to catch them young.
Catch them young, but also don't leave those who are actually practitioners. Yeah.
I see. I'll come back to George to sort of get some other notes. I just want to, is this also because you want to set the record straight? I ask this because in the public domain, you lost your bank, right? And it was one of the, in fact, it was the first one that was announced before Capital Bank. It was major news, 2017, August.
2017, precisely.
August. I will never forget. And I was like, wow, what is this? And then it just went on and on and on and on and on. So do you feel like I need to tell my story the way it happened? Because the manner in which the banking thing went then also affects the reputation of the brand. Because it's like, oh, so after all of this is how it ended. Right? So I want him to answer first. I want him to answer the question. I'll come to you. Is this a way of setting the record straight?
Not really. I'm not trying to get at people or try and defend myself. I think the real motive of writing is just to leave a legacy.
Okay.
And actually tell the story and let people learn from it. I don't live in the past as in trying to get my own back at people. I don't. It's not my way. But I think it was a good Ghanaian story. I mean, how you start from one room with 3 people, end up employing over 2,500 people with their footprints outside the country, winning all the awards. And it was a good story. It was a super brand. And how many times do we get Ghanaian companies doing that? It's unfortunate that the government just collapsed the flagship company. But I think people need to know how to grow a business in this our environment. Because, say, for example, the reason why a lot of companies don't grow is that the owner of the business competes with the business. He's trying to build his own brand, but they forget to realize that if you build a company, the company then will build your brand. It's not the other way around, but they tend to compete with the company and then collapse the company. You know, that's how come, and I've seen a lot of young people, they get some monies, then they buy cars, and that to show off that, you know, they are assumacy and all that, and the company goes down. Because you are competing with your own company.
So you are saying you didn't address that issue in the book? No, or not directly. You did not take on, I haven't read the whole book, which I'm asking. Because if I were writing a book in 2023 after 2017 about my company, I would dedicate at least a couple of chapters to what the government said about my company and whether I believe it's true or not. And whether I thought the method they used was right or wrong. You obviously have to deal with that.
Actually, we might come to that in the 3rd book because it was the bank.
Oh, Lord. My God.
There's nothing in the bank.
No, yeah, okay. So this is...
It's not my priority.
Oh, this is prior to bank.
Yeah.
All of this is prior to bank.
It's not my priority to talk about the collapse of the bank, even though that in itself
but it's become emblematic because now when I talk to when we talk of Kofi Amoabeng, it's like, oh, Charlie, the guy ran a big company and now he's collapsed. So you cannot avoid it. It's the elephant in the room.
It's going to come.
So there's a whole book on that.
There's a whole book on that.
Seriously?
Yeah.
It's being worked on?
Oh yeah. It's
you shut up by a power. You are writing a whole book on the bank.
Because see, when we started, we were going to write a book.
Okay.
Then George told me that, listen, there's so much content, we can't put everything in one book. So I said, okay, fine. Then let's write book 1 and see how it goes. And even that one, he had to sieve it. And so we had book 1 and said, listen, it can only take us from the military up to just about when you had, your company had won some acceptance. So we did that. And then we said, okay, the rest of the story, we'll do in book 2. But then if you look at book 2, it's really so rich. with content, a lot of things that people need to learn about how to grow businesses and grow them internationally and grow it into a conglomerate and so on and so forth. So we have to leave it at that. Otherwise, if we add the bank one,
To be too much.
yeah, it will dwarf the importance of this.
But you need to recognize that for those who buy books, who read, apart from the ones who are like readers, a lot of people want to know your side. We are very gossipy. We want to know what Amoabeng thinks about what Ken Ofori-Atta did to him. Yes, and we want to know what he thinks about whether the governor could have intervened, whether the president was involved. You want to know all those things.
As for that, I can tell you.
You can tell me.
When it comes to financial institutions and big companies, big in terms of the company, I still maintain that it was a wrong decision for them to collapse it. I wasn't even a CEO at the time.
When you say collapse it,
that's what they did. Collapse actually literally went there and using hammer to break down the name. I mean, have you seen a bank being collapsed like that? But the point is that even though, and look, Ghana now, the whole country, we are going for a bailout.
Yeah.
And you couldn't bail out a successful company. But I'm saying that it depends on the kind of reports that went to the authorities.
Yeah.
Probably it was mixed with all sort of negative things which were not true. So we will come to that. But to the point, bailout was necessary because, listen, if a bank owes the government about 800 million cedis, and then you use about 2.2 billion to close it or collapse it, I mean, that money could have been given to the bank for it to restructure under your supervision, just as IMF is supervising, and let them pay over a period of 5 years. All the banks in the U.S. who were bailed out 2008, they've all paid up, and they are now strong again.
So you'd have kept the staff working, you'd have kept the branches running. So the cost of closing down the bank, but they sort of merged it into some bank, I think.
No,
they
UT Bank wasn't made. UT Bank was just...
I thought they said GCB or something.
No, UT Bank and Capital Bank were just closed.
Closed down, go home. How many people were working with in the bank?
Maybe about 700.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they all had to go home.
All of them?
Yeah, and affected also the other subsidiaries, the brand had been damaged, so we had to, again, cut them to size. So
but some of the subsidiaries are still there, aren't they?
Yeah, some of them are still there. In the army, we call them walking wounded. So they are there, but not in the position in which they were. But we try.
Which of them, apart from the bank, was your crown? Okay, I'm sure people have told you that becoming a bank was a wrong idea. Some people have people said that to you.
Yeah, it comes up a lot. But the point is where we were at the time.
Yeah.
We did it for various sound reasons. One, to bring the cost of financing down for our clients.
Yeah.
Two, to also open the way for our staff for their career development.
Yeah. Like they are peaked.
Yeah. And then, of course, if we grow the business, we provide competition in the market. And don't forget, UT Bank did a lot of things which changed the
Wow. So book 3 is coming?
Yep.
Book 3. Why are you launching this one? Why is it being launched?
Marriott Hotel, 22nd, 6 p.m.
I see.
Yeah.
Open to the public?
By invitation.
No,
of course,
strictly by invitation.
Otherwise, the hotel
will be
it will be jam-packed.
I see.
You talked about everyone wanting to know the story about the bank.
Yeah.
You see, because of my filmmaking background, I always go back to that. Anytime you watch a movie and they start and they're a nice family or a nice couple or something, and then they build it up and all that, you need what we call the backstory before you go to the main story.
I see.
And this actually details all that. So when you come to the bank, then you understand.
Yes, small volume 3 and we're launching. Wow.
Then the other thing too is you asked the question about why he's doing this. Is it because he wants to get back up? No. I've had that question a lot myself. People say, why are you doing propaganda and all that? And I say, I also have a reputation to keep. But we started this before the bank was collapsed. He was on retirement. He was sitting there. I approached him.
Yeah, but because, I don't know whether you got the point about your leadership philosophy. I don't know if you've decoded, but I think there are some leaders who become synonymous with the company because of the way they lead. Because I said you lead from the front and you collect the slaps and you also give the punches yourself. So people don't separate the company from you. So even though personally you do in the way of run a company, for good or bad, you are that type of leader. So you cannot run away from the fact that people see you as UT.
Yeah, so we'll come to it.
You do it.
We'll do it.
Okay. Wonderful. So let's just, George, where will we get this book after it's launched?
And all the shops, Kingdom Books, EPP, Bachona Total, Airport Shell, Osu Total, Vidya bookstores, Book Nook, you can order online. We are going to put it on Amazon.
All right.
And all the bookshops, anywhere.
Thank you very much, George. Bintu Mesiao here with Kofi Amoabeng, UT Story Volume 2, Building a Winning Team. We'll take a quick break into Parliament. They are doing a press conference. The minority is addressing the public. We'll take that briefly before we come and wrap up. Godfred, are we ready? We're trying to synchronize. Atu Forson is reading a statement. There's a vetting to happen in about 11 minutes. We don't know if it's going to happen. But you heard PK Amoabeng. Always good. We could talk for hours. I'm sure we'll do another conversation before book 3.